Now, here's the challenge with depression. Depression can be a natural result of either a physical issue or an emotional issue. But that's not all. It can be a natural result of both a physical issue and an emotional issue at the same time. As we've talked about this in the past, I experienced tremendous depression with borderline personality disorder. But once I addressed those underlying emotional issues, the perspectives and attitudes that I was raised with and was educated with, once I corrected those, that depression went away entirely. But now here's another thing that I've mentioned to you in the past, and that is seasonal depression. When the sunlight changes and I'm not getting enough sunlight or UV exposure, I experience a melancholy that is depression. It's not as severe as the other type of depression that I experienced with borderline personality disorder, but it still affects me. So there are two examples in one person, two types of depression, both different types of depression with completely different causes in those two categories. The depression that came with borderline personality disorder was emotional in nature. It was based on my perspectives, my attitudes, my interpretation of life in the world, particularly about human value and the value of feelings, the nature of that, right? So was that a physical solution to eliminating that depression? No, there was no pill I could take that's going to make me perceive differently how I have learned to perceive things. It required an intangible solution, me reasoning, critical thought, education, a readjustment of perspectives and attitudes. But then within my very same body, I have another depression, which comes about with the change of seasons, typically from summer into winter, when the strength of UV light is not what it has been. Is that an emotional problem, or is that a physical problem? It's a physical problem, right? It's how my body takes in sunlight and uses that sunlight or those UV rays or vitamin D or whatever it is. So in one example there, you've got two different types of depression, one based on the physical, the other based on the intangible or the emotional. So do you see why this is not unusual at all for a person to be walking around thinking, oh, I'm just depressed all the time and these pills aren't helping me? Well, maybe the pills aren't helping you, or the sun lamp is not helping you, because you're not just living with the physical type of depression. Maybe you're also experiencing depression from emotional issues, which are rooted in your foundation, perspectives, attitudes, beliefs, understanding of life in the world. So if depression is only a natural result of emotional issues, that can be completely eliminated. That type of depression can be completely eliminated through the correction of unhealthy attitudes and unhealthy fundamental perceptions. If depression is only a natural result of a physical issue, now remember, mental issues, chemical imbalances, all these things fall into the physical category, right? Mental issues deal with the way that your brain functions, just like the mechanical part of the engine of your car. Chemical imbalances. We could divide these things up into a lot of different categories, but pointlessly so, because the only thing really that we need to know in order to get a really firm foot in the right direction is those two categories. So chemical imbalance would fall into the physical category. Right there you know that this is going to require a physical approach, a physical solution. A chemical imbalance is not something you can just reason yourself out of, is it? Because that type of solution only applies to the intangible, which is emotional health, emotional disorder. But, that type of depression, which falls into the physical category, might need medications, might need treatments, might need vitamin D, a sun lamp, could require any sorts of these physical treatments. Now, what happens if depression is both physical and emotional? So, persons living with both types. Well, then the physical approaches are only going to address the physical part, right? A physical approach is only going to address one half of the depression that you're dealing with. A person might still be depressed and not understand why medication's not completely fixed the problem. And the answer, of course, could be that the person has not addressed the emotional depression that is coexisting.